Well, it's that time of year again. It's the spending review. A really big moment, but it's quite complicated. There's a lot of numbers here, and it's taken a long time for me to get my head around it. So I want to give you just a distilled version of this. 5 things you really need to know about this spending review to kind of prepare you for it. Let's start with the first one. This is just showing you the big picture for UK public finances. You've got receipts, that's money coming in. Our taxes going into the government, into the exchequer, £1.23 trillion. You've got expenditure, that is the money it's spending. And you'll probably have noticed, look, there's a difference between the two of them. We spend more than we bring in taxes, and the difference between those two things is borrowing. And when it comes to budgets, so as opposed to spending reviews, we often talk a lot, don't we, about borrowing and about taxes. This time, it's all about this. It's about the spending. But it's not about all of it, OK? Because the biggest chunk of this is actually known as annually managed expenditure. It's not really kind of managed. Some people would say it's not entirely controlled. This is pension spending. It's spending on benefits. It's spending on debt interest. It's the stuff you can't control on a year-to-year basis so easily. And so the spending review isn't about that. It's about this. Departmental spending, £554 billion worth of departmental story. So that is lesson number 1, rule number 1 for this. It's not about all of the spending, it's really just about this chunk. It's a very big chunk, but it's certainly not about all of that spending. And we can break this chunk down into 2 further categories. I told you it was slightly complicated, but do not worry, so bear with me. You've got investment, so spending on building things, for instance, rail projects and so on. And then you've got what's known as current or day-to-day spending. So that is your spending on nurses' salaries, for instance. And if we just break this down a little bit further, OK? So break down where we are with that spending. Day-to-day spending, you get a sense of where that money is spent right now. And this is critical, OK? Because what this spending review is about apportioning the money. We know the big picture, we just don't know who is going to get most of that money in the coming years. And it's health and social care is at the top of the list in previous years. You've got education, you've got defence, you've got other departments as well, big fight over the Home Office. But here's the second thing you really need to know about the spending review. It is supposedly going to be a zero-based review. What does that mean? It means theoretically, each of these departments has to not just say, we'd like a little bit more, they have to justify every single pound spent by their department. It's a massive deal if that is indeed the case. But a lot of people are quite sceptical about it, because if that is the case, then these bars could go all over the place. As it is, most people think they're just going to go up or down by a little amount. So we will have to see. But certainly, the history is a big thing to bear in mind here, OK? Because I was showing you those different departments there. Some of them have done a lot better than others over recent years. So this is showing you the overall pace of day-to-day spending in recent years, OK? So we're going back to 2006-07 here. That's the overall number. You can see COVID there kicking in there. Look at health, OK? So health spending has done much better than the average, OK? So compare that red line with the average. But it's a different picture for some other departments. So education, it hasn't done quite as well as health has, a little bit above the average, but not, not by an enormous amount. And then you've got other departments. So the Home Office, for a long time, was really struggling. But of course, you've got a lot of money that needs to go into the Home Office to pay. This in particular was paying for things like migration and asylum. There's been a question mark over how that line is going to go in the future, and a big fight. Well, is it a fight? Is it a disagreement between Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, and the Chancellor? So Home Office, going to be one to watch as well. And then other departments like Justice. Think about what's happening in the courts right now. Think about all of the problems they're having there. This chart is a big part of that story. And we're going to learn, aren't we, whether that line's going to go up and try and improve things in courts or indeed not. And then finally, one other just worth being aware of, given it is such a big story right now, defence. If you look at the overall picture, and this is day-to-day spending, and it's worth just saying for defence, a lot of the spending is investment spending. But still, day-to-day spending, defence actually is quite considerably down on the overall across Whitehall. So that's the big picture. The other thing that's worth just saying, OK, when I was talking about different departments, the real question, what we know, OK, is we know that this is how much investment spending is increasing in the coming years. What we don't know, for instance, is where that investment spending is going to be spent. So how is that going to be divided between different departments? That's what this spending review is going to work out for 4 years when it comes to investment and for 3 when it comes to day-to-day spending. And that is the big thing. Where is health in that? Where is defence? Where are those other bits? We just don't know, and that's really part of the big question. But the bigger picture, by the way, first multi-year, that's the third thing you need to know here, in case you were keeping count. This is the first multi-year where we actually have 3 years at a time or 4 years for investment. First one of those we've had in ages. Going back to, there was the one during the pandemic, don't know if it really counts, but I think 2015 is the last time that we had something similar. Let's just quickly recap a bit of the history, because this really matters as well. This is showing you day-to-day spending and how it's evolved over time. And you're going to see this chart probably. It's been tweeted by some Labour ministers, something similar to this. And why is it tweeted by Labour ministers? It's because the Conservative plans were basically showing that was going to kind of flatline. That's investment, the red line. That's just day-to-day spending. They were showing that these lines were going to basically flatline and now bring on what Labour is doing since it's come into government. And there's a big difference. Much more investment spending, much more day-to-day spending as well. So that line you're probably going to see a few times. You may not see the next chart, okay? And that's because the next chart, rather than just looking at spending and doing it kind of inflation adjusted over the last few years, it's probably slightly better to adjust it by the percentage of GDP. And if you do that, look at how those lines have changed suddenly. Look at how this point where we are now, you see, by the way, actually a little bit of kind of somewhat semi-ancient history here. You see austerity with spending going down and down. You see COVID with that big spike in terms of spending on health there. But what you also see is that where we are right now, or at least in the next few years, even at the high point of where Rachel Reeves is taking us, it's still below pre-2014 levels. So it's not austerity, it's worth just saying. And by the way, this actually they're going to talk about, I imagine, quite a lot. So that's your day-to-day spending. This is your investment spending. And here, that line there, you can just about make it out. That's the highest that it's been for decades. Okay, so a lot of people are asking this question, is it a return to that kind of austerity? Well, the short answer is no. Number 4 thing you need to know about this, it's not a return to austerity because we're not seeing that line going down really sharply. But when you compare this spending review with previous spending reviews, okay, so each of these bars are showing you, again, day-to-day spending and investment in previous spending reviews, 2000, 2002, the Gordon Brown years, towards the end of Gordon Brown. There you've got George Osborne and austerity here. Where does this spending review take us? Are those bars going up into the stratosphere or not? Well, in short, have a look. It's not that big. It's not that big. And that is the key thing to note when you're watching all of this coverage, is this is not a big splurge. Whatever Rachel Reeves will have to say about this, it's not a big splurge, but it's certainly going to be interesting, and we're going to get more of a sense of just how that money is actually going to be spent.